From Sonic the Hedgehog to the Super Mario series, popular video games are becoming the source material for big budget Hollywood movies. Hey, what's up, guys? Alan here. Welcome to a very special edition of Thoughts on This, where I or we speak out our thoughts because, as you can see, I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm joined by a very special guest, someone that has some very, well, more knowledge than me on the world of video games, is my friend and film critic Jordyn Streisfield. Jordyn, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on here.
Well, it's great to have you here. And so, as you know, we recently got the release of the second Super Mario Bros. Movie and an upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog 4 coming out like early next year. Why do you think it's becoming a trend for these video games to be adapted into films?
Well, I think video games are becoming bigger, especially compared to back in the 90s when people were getting their hands on actual home consoles and you saw big franchises like Mario debut. People really didn't understand what they were, and people kind of thought it was a fad. But now that they're getting bigger than ever, more people are turning to video games as their primary source of entertainment. And I think a lot of these big production studios in Hollywood are seeing that this is getting big and they're seeing dollar signs in their eyes, basically. And I honestly think it's a really good business move. If these video games are so popular already, adapting them into a movie is a amazing business move.
All right, well, thank you for that insight. And kind of like what I said before, it is an honor to have you here. And today we're actually going to be sharing our thoughts of a couple video games adapted films. So to kick things off, we're going to start off with last year's hit, the Minecraft movie, starring Jack Black and Jason Momoa, of all people. So, as you know, the film is based on the popular video game that has pretty much took over the early 2010s and I'm still it's pretty much still popular till this day. And I have some knowledge about the video game Minecraft, but how much knowledge did you have about the game before this film even existed?
I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I got into it around 2013 and I've been on and off. I'm not caught up on all the meta and I wasn't necessarily into like the Minecraft YouTube boom, but I've been watching it alongside as it's being developed and as it like waxes and wanes in popularity.
2013 was pretty much when I kind of like started to hear more about the hype around Minecraft. And and I don't know about you, like I think I was a little bit kind of bit caught off guard when a Minecraft movie was being made. But what was your reaction when you found out about this? Like Minecraft was being made into a movie.
Well, I believe the initial announcement for a Minecraft movie actually came out in 2014. And at that point, the game was still in its relative infancy.
Oh,
That was
wow.
the first big boom of Minecraft popularity. That's when a lot of Minecraft YouTube was taking off. I think a lot of people had some skepticism around that time, especially when there were lots of articles and rumors being tossed around about like Steve Carell's possibly directing it and voicing it. Then it got canceled. Then it got restarted and all sorts of things. It went through a lot of like what we call development hell during the time. And I would say that when it was announced that they were actually working on it seriously and a trailer was coming out, I think that just contributed to the, oh, I remember they were working on this, like the idea of that a while ago. And there of course is excitement when something like this happens because you want to see something this big treated well, but you're also a little bit afraid that it might not be understood correctly.
I kind of did get that sort of vibe, like, and I was one of those people that was skeptical about it at first, but I still wanted to check the film out regardless, and I went into it blind, like not really knowing what the plot is, and after watching it, I never thought I enjoyed it as much as I did. It was actually a lot of fun. It was really funny, and it was overall like a fun time. And have you had the chance to check it out?
Well, I haven't seen the full film, but I think like most people, I've seen chunks of it passed around online, especially when the movie was about to come out or when the movie was in theater, the work print was leaked online. So I saw a lot of that.
The work print. Can you elaborate on that?
It's It's an early version of the film, I think shown to test audiences where the CGI isn't fully done. There were shots
Oh
of
yeah.
Jack Black as Steve surrounded by pandas, and everything looked very smudged because they had the 3D models there, but they weren't colored in, they weren't textured. So it was completely unfinished, but people were able to find it because somehow it got leaked.
Okay, yeah. Honestly, now I do remember seeing that version. And yeah, I remember seeing it was like, oh, what was this? Like this was nothing like I saw in theaters. But honestly, like I think like one of the biggest like selling points of it was the overall world building. You've seen clips of it, right, Jordan?
Hmm.
The environment was very well translated from video game to live action. Every little detail like in like the buildings, the plants, the creatures, it was like all very accurate. It looks like it was like the game actually coming to life. And another selling point that I thought like what really like made the film was Jack Black and Jason Momoa. The comedic duo I never expected because those are two completely different actors in terms of their like personalities. And if you've seen like any of their films like throughout their careers, they're completely different. But surprisingly, they have great chemistry. But the one problem I had was that the story was childish. And as an adult, like watching it, it didn't really appeal to me. But I think this is like a film that is more geared towards like the younger generation who is like still playing Minecraft. Maybe some people who are still playing Minecraft. Like I don't know, like do you still play Minecraft like till this day, Jordan?
Yeah, but not exactly like standard. I'm definitely one of those people who's very into like mods and stuff. And I used to watch people who would do some sort of like challenge runs or stuff like that. And I would agree with you in saying that this is definitely meant for a younger audience. I would actually hazard a guess and say that this was made by parents who aren't 100% sure what Minecraft is, and they had to do quite a lot of research. It definitely feels like they at times had like a kid in the writing room,
Yeah.
like shouting out like things that they want. To be fair, if the kids don't like it, then you have no audience.
Yeah, that's true. And honestly, I think you just described that perfectly. Like, 'cause yeah, there were some like parts that I thought that were cheesy, but there is a lot more charm than there is like, well, for negativity. I think like critics were like, I guess we're a bit too harsh with it, 'cause because to be honest, I think the best part of it, like, or the highlight rather, is Momoa and Black. Like they pretty much carried the film, but. I think what's a shame is that they pretty much outshine like everyone else in the film, including like Jennifer Coolidge, who has like her own storyline like in this film, and yeah, and even that like almost like I kind of forgot about.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting mix of the movie. For me, I really wish that it was fully animated. When the movie came out, there were talks that the original draft was to be fully animated and it was going to be done in the original Minecraft style in like 2D, 3D. And I think that would have made some of the issues that I have with it a little better because there are shots where like live action Jason Momoa is standing in front of this like clearly fake backdrop and it kind of looks cheesy. And some of the creatures have this like really gritty level of detail that reminds me a lot of YouTube channels like Rocket Jump back in the early 2010s, where they would do like if a popular video game was real type animations, where they would put crazy amounts of CGI and stuff to make like Slender Man real or something like that. It reminds me a lot of that.
Okay, interesting. I never really like caught on to that. And I think I would have fully agreed that I think this would be better off as an animated film, but I think we'll kind of like get into that like a little bit later. But as you know, like the film did well like financially regardless. I think it grossed over 160 million on its opening. Like I think it did take the top spot, but eventually it was taken over by films like the live action Lilo and Stitch and Niza 2. But why do you think this film did so well, like
Oh,
in theaters?
it's one simple word, memes. I think people went to go see this so that they could shout chicken jockey and throw their popcorn all over the place and make videos. There were videos of hordes and hordes and hordes of teenagers and preteens going to see this movie and make it a crazy mess in their theaters. This movie, the entirety got turned into a meme for like a solid like half a year, and people like went to see it just so they could get the experience. I'm not 100% sure if everyone who saw it had pure intentions to go see it as if it were a movie, but rather just to see the funny thing that was popular, kind of like Morbius, if you think about it.
I honestly forgot about that meme even existed. Like, I mean, I don't really understand it, but yeah, honestly, it does look like a film that is like meant to be kind of like meme worthy. Especially like that one like Jack that song that Jack Black sang, which I think it lasted for like 15 seconds. Like,
Mhm.
la 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 lava,
Yeah.
chicken. I Yeah, I think it ended up in the Billboard Hot 100, I believe. Like,
Jeez Louise.
I might be
Probably.
wrong. With the success like the film had, like, do you think this will lead to like another film sometime in the future, like or maybe like a couple more?
Maybe. I'm not quite sure because again, a lot of the successes this movie had was off of like the secondary market of memes. So if they were to fully try and take it seriously again, I'm not sure if it would do so well. Minecraft doesn't have as many, have as rich of a plot as a lot of other video games, and they've kind of already done their big plot point with the Nether in this. So unless there is another massive in-game lore update coming soon, and then they immediately adapt that, it might be hard. They might be better off doing something closer to, and I regret saying this because I don't like it, the Minecraft story mode game where they're just making up an original plot in the universe. I could see someone like Netflix doing like a limited series.
Honestly, now that you say that, I feel like this would be like better off as a Netflix because writing to me felt like very like low budget. Like I was watching a direct to video film. Anyway, so let's move on to another film that we are going to discuss, none other than Five Nights of Freddy's. So I have like very little knowledge about the games, but so and as someone who's not really familiar with Five Nights at Freddy's, can you provide a brief description?
Ooh. So Five Nights at Freddy's is known for being incredibly convoluted because the creator tries to hide a bunch of lore into stuff and like asks us to pick the pieces, and apparently it's changed over the years. But the basic premise is a a dude who was like a sociopath or a serial killer at like a rip-off Chuck E. Cheese, killed a bunch of kids and put them in the robots, and their spirits haunted the robots, and you're like a night guard who's like trying to keep the peace as the robots are trying to eat you. And over the course of the series, the goals have like completely changed. We've had plots with mini malls, we've had fishing, we've had RPGs. At this point, I don't even know what Five Nights at Freddy's is, but the core idea is robots, like animal robots that are possessed by like human spirits.
Yeah, okay. Now that you provide that brief description, after like watching it like now, like it definitely makes a lot of sense. I didn't really understand a lot of it, and like I think that description just pretty much like, okay, that sums everything up because the first time I watched it, I forgot about it, but after rewatching it, I enjoyed it more than I thought. Like there were a lot of things to like about it, and but to me, it was a mixed bag because there was a lot of things that this film did right, like the cinematography, production design, and all the horror sequences, like or scenes rather. It was all like really like well thought out. It's like I felt like I was playing the games. The biggest like praise I have for this was the animatronics. Like I thought those were like the most impressive things about it. Honestly, it was just so cool, and I really enjoyed the first 3 minutes and the opening credits. I thought it like set the tone and the aesthetic of like the games. And you said that it was convoluted. Yeah, I did felt like that, like in the story and like the pacing. Like it was clunky and inconsistent, and everything else that didn't really have to do with the game, like outside of that, it was just like mid at best, but also forgettable. Like I couldn't even remember the the main character's like name, like Josh Hutcherson's character.
I feel like it felt like it was burdened with having to set up this very normal world and these like normal people before getting into the stuff of the games. Because honestly, the plot, the first game is very bare bones. You are literally sitting in a room and you are looking at like images and then occasionally flicking lights on and off. So they have to create a plot about this guy and his sister, and he's losing custody, I think, and he can't get a job. But the animatronics are clearly the highlight. I believe Jim Henson's studio worked on them, and they had them on display at Universal for Halloween one time, and they look amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, those were definitely the highlight. I think like that was like those were like the parts that actually like kept me like invested the whole time. But like everything else like that didn't really have to do with the game. It's like like the brother losing custody. Like it was
Mhm.
just hard to me to get invested. And then the second one came and I thought there was a lot of things like to like. The second film took a lot of the good things about the first film and just made it like bigger. Like the production design was bigger. The horror element was just as thrilling and the animatronics were just as impressive. And once again, it had a very like good opening scene. To me, it was like honestly a lot more scarier and disturbing than the first film. But which film did you think was better?
Ooh, that is a tough call because, as you said, the second one definitely adds more stuff. The first one's whole plot about this character being able to talk to the animatronics, that's not something in the games. And it felt kind of out of left field for me that they're trying to like humanize these very like in the game they're treated as kind of mindless monsters. Um, but the second one has a lot to do with like ghost hunters and stuff like that. The opening is like stellar. I think the opening is fantastic, but I feel like there are a lot of things they're clearly adapting the second game, and I feel like there were a lot of things from the second game that they completely missed or completely swept under the rug, like the fact that the second game is actually a prequel. They did not exactly formally introduce all of the new animatronics. They kind of just show them walking about. And whenever there are shots of them, the camera is shaking around so wildly, you can't really get a good look at them. And I understand it's maybe, to immerse the viewer a lot more and to increase fear, but like I want to look at the good effect.
I feel like a lot of that stuff, like what you just said, was in there, and honestly, and I was invested in a lot of it. But however, I still had the same kind of like sort of issue that I struggled to sort of like follow with like the story. But I would give it props for like for having a more consistent pacing,
Hmm.
and I did get like a lot more invested like in the last few minutes, especially that post credit scene. Like I thought was like,
Hmm.
whoa, okay, are
Oh
we gonna
yeah.
get a third one?
I think at this point a third one is all but confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised like if there is gonna be like a third one in like maybe like next year or maybe even maybe like 2028 or something.
I would say
No.
2028 is a good bet.
Yeah, I think so too. But overall, how well did these films like remain faithful to the games?
I think that when adapting a game to screen, there's a lot of stuff that has to be moved around, and you can definitely see in these. A lot of games they play off of the idea that the player can make choices, and so in the movie you can't really make choices, so they try to pick the most like logical or the most one that they think that people will go for, while also constructing a lot of behind stories to make it seem more plausible. A lot of these movies are marketed towards slightly younger audiences, so there are going to be times where they are going to over explain things in order to make the older people in the audience feel like they can take it a little more seriously or that it's not just cartoon characters suddenly showing up. I feel like out of all of them, though, I would say I do think Five Nights at Freddy's adapts to the source material slightly better than Minecraft, so solely because of how accurate the characters look, that the animatronics are doing exactly what they normally do, that they look correct, that the locations are correct, and that they're bringing in plot points that do actually happen in the games. And with the teaser that they released in the third one, we have no doubt in our minds that the third game is going to be adapted with what they showed in the ending of one, the ending of two, and then going into this, it's setting itself up perfectly.
Yeah, I would like to echo, kind of like echo a little bit about that as well. And I do feel like, yeah, this is like another film that is like mainly targeted towards the younger audience. But I feel like this is more catered towards like the Five Nights at Freddy's fans. I mean, I'm not one of them because and I wasn't able to like understand a lot of the lore, but I think as
Yeah.
someone like you who is a fan or who has like extensive knowledge about the games, like I feel like you were able to like understand and appreciate it more.
Yeah, there's um there's a lot of stuff in these movies that is specifically designed to have people point and be like, "Oh my God, I know exactly what that is." In the Minecraft movie, there's a specific moment in one of the background shots where there is a pig with a crown, and that's a reference to a famous Minecraft player who passed away a couple years ago. And in the Five Nights at Freddy's movies, there are lots of background references to different characters or different bits from the games that if you've played or heard about them, then you might be able to point and say, I know what that is. And I think a lot of video game movies these days are starting to bank more on that, especially when you look at stuff like Mario and Sonic. It is definitely a lot of Where's Waldo, like pointing out references.
I feel like there was a lot of things that I wasn't able to like pick up on, and I think there were things that I was able to like notice, but I think I kind of sort of glossed over it. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned Mario because that is like the next film that we're going to talk about. So the final film that we are going to be discussing today is the Super Mario Bros. Movies. So, I mean, just off the bat, what is your general opinion on the like on those movies?
Ooh, I really liked them. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. I think Illumination did a really good job of the visuals. You can just sit there and you can look at shots and you can just see all these little things moving. They're very colorful, they're very bright, easy to catch attention. And the stories aren't half bad. I think that they're drawing in material from different games all across like the timeline, if there even is a timeline, and kind of blending them together to make this own original plot, which seems to serve us pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with everything you just said. And I actually do have a full review of the very first Super Mario Bros. Movie like in on my channel, and I think I've said like something similar to that. But Super Mario is like a very like easy franchise to like target like those who are like the younger generation, but also the older generation because it's been around for like so long, like since like the 1980s. So
Hmm.
I think it was really easy to like capture a lot of that nostalgia. It was very well like thought out. Like they knew like what they were doing. They cared about the source material. They cared about the audiences. There was like a lot of like references to like not just the older Super Mario games, but like the newer ones as well. And not just Super Mario, but like Mario Kart, because which is sort of like more of my childhood. Because the first video game I played was Mario Kart on the DS, and that just like takes me back a little bit. And then the second one came, and I was already pretty excited, like a little bit kind of like raised an eyebrow because I thought Super Mario Galaxy would not be adapted into like a third or fourth movie. But
Hmm.
like after watching the like I think like the first couple of trailers, I got more excited, like and I was start to like be like more like invested, like to get more excited. And after watching the second one, it's like wow. I mean, there's a really words I can't describe it. Like I like it just took everything that was so great about the first film and just like made it like bigger, like 10 times bigger. Because if you loved the first one, you're going to love the second one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the second one really just builds off of what the first one already lays down, just makes the scope of everything bigger. There's new characters, there's new references to stuff. You're adding in other characters, which are very important to Mario, have been around for decades. I will say, I think the story was a little bit lower on this one. I think there were
Mm.
some things that I think they should have held off on showing here until a later movie. It felt like a lot was going on at once, and at sometimes it felt a little much, but I think the just visuals, the style, and just that it's a really fun movie made up for it.
Yeah, and I do agree. I thought the story was a little bit of like a downgrade compared to the first film. I felt like in terms story-wise, I enjoyed the first film more, but you cannot deny like like the visuals, even like the surprisingly like stacked that cast is what really like what made the film like just like a standout. And I think there was like a really cool like moment where at one point they actually kind of like recreated the 8-bit graphic of like the older Mario games,
Yeah.
and I thought like wow, that was really cool. Like had
Hmm.
and surprised that they actually did that. And I also like that they also brought in lesser known characters like Honey Queen and King Ward, like which honestly I think like and this kind of shows like how much they really cared about like the Mario fan base.
Oh yeah. With Mario being around for so many years, they have a massive library of characters, worlds, and ideas that they can draw from. And it's really interesting seeing them take not only Mario Galaxy stuff, but even as you said, from Mario 2, stuff from World, stuff from the original three, all that kind of stuff all over the place. And it works together to create something that's unique.
Yeah, it does. And like it's messy, but it's like messy like in the best way possible.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, you know, and with all these video game adapted movies being released, is it possible that we could see more?
Oh, absolutely. I think that this is where the film industry is heading, especially when you see massive successes like the Mario movie, but also lesser known successes like Iron Lung, which came out in January this year and was entirely marketed by word of mouth. I think that filmmakers are turning more towards video game adaptations, not only because they have these stories that are completely different than what's already out there, but because they already have an established audience, so they know that they are going to get viewers automatically. And I think that, well, we've seen video game adaptations already happen in Hollywood in the 2000s, but
Yeah.
I believe that the difference is right now that the directors actually care about the source material. If you look back at stuff like the original Mario movie, it is clear
Oh,
that no
yeah.
one cared about Mario while working that. And you can look at how everything looks and just see it. I mean, Yoshi is a literal velociraptor in that movie, or anything that Uwe Boll worked on, like I believe he worked on a Dead Space adaptation or the Mila Djokovic Resident Evil movies. It's clear that the people who worked on it did not know anything about the franchise and were trying to cash in. And I'm shocked that some of them did as well as they did. But if they were to do those today, obviously they would have not only a lot of knowledge of the game itself, but also official studio support, which I think just helps make a stronger product.
Okay, yeah. And we are running out of time, but before we go, like what other video game adapted movies are you looking forward to in the future? And what other video games would you like to see adapted into a movie?
I've got my eye on one that recently got announced to get two directors. They recently, well, actually, a couple of years ago, got announced that it was happening, and then they just got two directors. It's an adaptation of the original Metal Gear Solid. That game is basically a movie with the amount of cutscenes in it and just full motion video clips in it. And I think that it really, really lends itself towards a cinematic medium. I mean, Metal Gear Solid got popular originally because of how cinematic it was and how it pioneered different types of things in gaming. And I think they absolutely can't go wrong with doing an adaptation of that. And I will be there on opening night when it happens. In
Oh,
terms of what I think should get adaptations, I think there's a lot of stuff out there which absolutely could deserve it. I think Nintendo should expand more with what they're doing. I know they're doing a Zelda thing currently,
oh
and
yeah,
I'm a
I've
little
heard about that.
disappointed. I'm a little disappointed with live action, but I think they should also go further and start doing stuff like Metroid.
Oh yeah, Metroid. I forgot about Metroid.
Oh yeah.
And I also think that they should also do something with Splatoon for some reason.
Oh.
I
Hmm.
don't know.
Yeah,
I just thought about
that'd
it.
be good.
Like, and we are running out of time, but I do have to ask this. Is there the possibility of we could see a Super Smash Bros. Movie?
Ooh, I've heard the rumors. I've heard the rumors. I know that there was rumors of a Smash Bros. Movie with Mario, Sonic, Detective Pikachu, and Brie Larson said she wanted to play Samus, but I think that's really far off in the future if it even does happen. We're gonna need at least multiple characters already established, and the directors of those to be willing to work with each other.
Of course, yeah. Like the fact that we have like Fox McCloud in the newer in the second Super Mario movie, you cannot like deny like that is sort of like a nod or a setup to like a colossal Super Smash Bros. Movies, like
Hmm.
Avengers Infinity War Endgame of like of video games.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So I think that is all the time that we have, and that sums up pretty much all of our thoughts. And if you guys agree or disagree, let me know down in the comments. And if you haven't already subscribed, that would really mean a lot. And Jordyn, thank you so much for being here. It was such an honor to have you, and I know I said this the third time, but it really was.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is fun.
All right, yeah, that was so much fun. Hopefully, we could do this again sometime. Well, that is all I have to say, and I hope to see you all next time. Bye, everybody.